Well, good morning or afternoon or whenever you're listening to this. We just want to welcome you to the Kennrod live streaming show. We have got a show for you. My name is Pete Kane and I host it for now. And Savannah Johnson, right there on the screen, will be your future host.
Hello.
Kelly is the director and the founder of Kennrod, and she's up there. Everybody knows Kelly, and Kelly's going to introduce our guest, which I am really excited. Being a golfer, this was a really special show that I could be a part of. So, Kelly, would you introduce our guest?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you today, and I'm especially excited to be able to introduce everyone to Leonard Smoot. Leonard is a very dear friend and a family member of mine, and I cannot tell you enough how special this moment is. I'm excited to be able to celebrate him today, and the work that he has achieved has just been incredible. But even more importantly, just him as a person. I think you'll be able to see the character of the man and why he is so very special to so many people today. Leonard is the head golf coach at Miles College in Birmingham, Alabama. He's also the founder and president of Smoot Golf, and he is a veteran. He's a 24-year veteran of the U.S. Marines. And so, without further ado, I'm just going to turn it over to Leonard so that he can share his story with us, as we know that Kennrod's purpose, our mission, is to be able to expose our students and our families to just an array of things, an array of opportunities. And golf, we don't really hear much in our community about golf. And it is so very exciting that Leonard is going to be able to bring some exposure to us. So if you know people who would like to learn a little bit more, please ask them to tune in. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to you, Leonard.
Well, good morning, good afternoon. It's truly a pleasure to be here this morning. And as Kelly has pointed out, we are very, very close um, friends, family. And I've talked to her on many occasions about golf and what it can do for not only our youth in the community, but our young professionals in the community, and what golf brings to the table to allow all of us to come together, regardless of what your backgrounds are, your professions, whether you're president and CEO of a company, or whether you're working in Burger King or McDonald's. You're on the same playing field once you're out on the golf course, and it allows you to come together and spend quality time with and get to know people. Um, and for those that don't golf, whether it's a spouse or somebody, I mean, there's plenty of places your husband or wife could be out on the golf course um, playing while you lounging in the spa or somewhere else. So um, it's pretty big and out there in the world with golf, and it's a family oriented sport. Um, Golf, you can play it until you're 100 years old. You can take your wife, your child, your husband, your nephew, your niece, and you all can go out and have just a great time on the golf course. And it's done a lot for me. Being a 24-year vet, I'm one of three African Americans to ever make the Marine Corps golf team. My uncle had tried to get me into golf as a young boy, but I was a baseball player, and that's what my dad wanted me to play. He wanted me to play baseball. And actually called. He actually had called. I think it was the Yankees, and see if he could get me an opportunity to come and try out for one of their farm teams. Um, but golf kind of just snuck up on me. I was while in the Marine Corps. I was being about to be promoted, and I was kind of like a light bulb kind of went off. Whereas I had saw my bosses out there playing, I'm like, okay, um, maybe I need to play this sport. So I wish I had the book. I actually have the Golf Digest book that I taught myself from, which was Nick Faldo on that magazine. I just kind of taught myself the sport. just because I thought it was a sort of an asset for me to have and be able to use throughout my Marine Corps career, in which it enhanced my Marine Corps career because I developed relationships with my commanding officer, the commanding general of the base, um, chief of staff, and others, and that it just continued. And I think sometimes I look at God, just kind of that's what the track He puts you on, because golf was not in the forefront of my mind. So throughout throughout my career, I just got good enough at it where I became the third African American Marine, competed overseas and did some things while stationed in Okinawa, Japan, um, and played in Europe while on the USS America with my unit. Um, and throughout that time, as I started continuing my career and got to the point where I was about to retire, I had to make some decisions where I wanted to live. Um, and that's when my sister talked to me while I was living in Okinawa, Japan at the time. Talked to me, you need to come to Birmingham, Alabama. You need to come to Birmingham, Alabama. I'm like, okay, which was not my first place of choice. And so throughout that process of thinking what I truly wanted to do, I really, after retirement, you get so used to being saluted. I mean, I was what we call a chief warrant officer. When I was an officer in the Marine Corps, I like, okay, I got to start over. Oh, well, what am I going to do? Well, I got into the insurance business by way of my cousin, but golf was my passion. I knew I wanted to continue to pour into young men and women. That's all I knew. Being in the military, to be a servant to kind of help others, a humanitarian to help others, because that's what we do in the military as well. Um, so golf just kind of was just there. It was something I wanted to do, and throughout time, I met my beautiful wife, Melissa, and, and by the way, I actually met her at a golf course, which is crazy, right? She didn't play golf at all. Didn't know nothing about golf. But she was in stilettos, and I saw this beautiful woman in stilettos and jeans, and so I said, okay, well, hey, that's my wife. At some point I knew she was going to be my wife. She didn't know that, but I knew that.
That's awesome.
And so there you go. She didn't know nothing about golf, right? But she was at a country club at an event, and that's how we met. And so throughout time, her and I were dating. Eventually, we got married. I always talked about golf over and over, and so kind of closed the gap. We get here in this pandemic, right? We just decided, okay, let's go ahead and do it. So we created and started Smoot Golf. We started the foundation called Beyond the Birdie Foundation, which primarily Beyond the Birdie Foundation is to support youth, inner city youth, and I've always wanted to give back to inner city youth to help them kind of see a different picture. So, uh, and then with Smooth Golf, it's all about teaching the game of golf, and kind of that in a nutshell, pretty much kind of how this is where we are today. Um, Outside of me being the head golf coach at Miles College, which I
Mhm.
went back to college and uh, had spoken to the previous president about how golf could enhance Miles College, and we get actually went back to school. After I graduated, a call came out of the blue. That's why I'm saying sometimes God guides you in a certain direction, uh, because it was maybe several months after that I got a call out of the blue. Could I make a meeting at 10 o'clock that same day? Because the president wanted to start this golf program at the college, and he wasn't going to do it without you. And yeah, I knew I was going to be successful. I don't think many people thought I was going to be as successful as we are in just 8 years. Um, we win a conference championship. We go to the NCAA regionals. We've been runner up 3 times. We recently, I've been coach of the year 4 years straight years in a row, and just recently we won the PGA Works Collegiate Championship, which is the historically black colleges national championship. Which were all goals that I had set out for the guys, and explained to them, you follow your vision, follow your dreams, anything's possible. So that's basically it.
Awesome. I have a couple questions. We were talking ahead of time, and I got a little insight into some of your philosophies. But share with our listeners, like, as a golf coach, you're working with youth.
Mm-hmm.
What is your philosophy that you try to instill in them as you teach them the game of golf and life?
Well, first of all, my philosophy is simple. It's golf is a privilege. So I'm here to see that they be successful in life. And as I was telling you all, a trophy can collect dust. At some point, somebody's going to put it in a closet, close the door, and everybody's going to forget about it. But you have to pour into the student athlete, um, so that they know that you want to see them successful in life. Um, because all that other stuff to me is just, it's not my priority. I love, and I'm not saying I don't want to win. I'm just saying my win is when I see the success in the student, and I'm sitting in my rocking chair 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. I'm like, oh, okay, that's Dr. So and so, so and so, or hey, you know, that's the vice president of so. That's where my trophy lies, and I just continue to pour into the student athlete and build on the parents' foundation. So that's basically my mission statement, my platform.
Awesome. What do you think golf teaches young people today as they get into the sport?
Well, one, how to carry themselves amongst others, different communities. Um, sometimes we don't never we have others that don't ever step outside their communities. So if you never step outside the communities, how can you get to know what's going on truly in the world? And secondly, it allows them to kind of how to deal with others. You might be a CEO, you might work at Burger King, but if you're on that golf course, you're on the same playing field, the same level, and that's the time that you can spend quality time. You never know, a opportunity might come out of that. So I think golf teaches you how to be patient. It teaches you how to carry yourself amongst others. Um, it's a great, and it also teaches you how to dress. Uh,
Yes.
I think you carry yourself in a certain manner out on the golf course, and you look a certain way out on the golf course. And so yeah, so and for the young people that I tell the young folks, I say yeah, you can you can dress a certain way, there's certain thing, but you got to know how to flip that as well. Meaning, yeah, you got to, if you want to dress down, I mean, there's a certain level of dress down, but then you also have to know how to dress up. And you have to know how to communicate when you are dealing with uh, other professionals at different levels.
That's good advice. What would you, when, if somebody's out there listening and they're like intrigued, curious about golf, what would you think would be the first steps they should take to pursue it? Is there some organizations, is there some groups that you could get, steer them towards to get involved in golf?
For youth, there's the first tee programs that
Mhm.
I know and I know in Atlanta they have East Lake is very involved with. You got Charles A. White, those programs there in Atlanta. But any first tee program across the country
Mhm.
would probably be, my first recommendation here in Birmingham. Smoot Golf. Obviously, I'm gonna promote Smoot Golf, right? Um,
Yes.
and it's really with the youth here with Smooth Golf, we focus on, I primarily focus on the inner city youth, because I think we can make a change in the community. Um, and You find a private instructor. And so there's a number of different other organizations out there across the country that if a parent wanted to get their child involved, and I think I don't know how many of you all heard of Top Golf. Top Golf, I think, has inspired a lot of people to just go out and get entertained. You don't necessarily have to be serious about it, but I think people are finding themselves enjoying the sport more because of that, experience.
That is an easy way to kind of just go out there without worrying about where the ball's going to go sideways. And,
Absolutely.
you can just go out there and hit for an hour and not
Right.
have to not walk, but just, it's a great way to practice. And
Absolutely.
I noticed that Callaway bought Top Golf, so they obviously think it's a great platform to get people interested in golf.
Absolutely.
So what would you say, like when you're working with your, the golf team, before they play, the importance of the mental part of it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you try to instill in them of how they handle that part of the game?
Well, recently I just had I brought in a Lieutenant Colonel Army. Nothing against the Army, but I brought him in. I'm a Marine, so but I brought in a Ranger, Lieutenant Colonel Ranger, to talk to them about the mental side. You have to be prepared in anything you do. So from a mental state, we actually talk about being in the present. We talk about how do you prepare, what I call team preparation. How do you prepare yourself for every tournament that we play in? It's just not, you just don't walk into the golf course and start playing in a competition. And just like you don't step into your jobs and show up and then without having a plan in place. And that's what I from a course management perspective, from a pre-preparation perspective, I try to get the guys to think about, hey, you've got to get rest. You've got to, you're a student. You got to plan, hey, I got class or I got an exam. I need to prep for that. So there's a lot that goes into not only from the just golf course perspective, because if you're going on the golf course, in addition to all those other things, and you have an exam coming up, you're not going to get your best work out of that. Not, like I said, that's my first priority. If you can't get it, you can't play. And I keep it that simple. I expect all my guys at least have a 3.5 GPA. That's where we're going to start.
That's awesome.
So
what do you think when it comes to anger and handling your emotions? How do you coach them through that? Because it's a big part of golf.
Yeah. Well, I get them. I sit them down a lot because I have had some hot heads on the team. But I tell them on this team, it's about professionalism. And you can be upset, but I don't want this word dropping out of your mouth, that word dropping out of your mouth. Take 5 seconds. If you want to be upset about a shot, take 5 seconds and move on, because it's going to impact you long term. And it's the same thing with life. If you hold on to it and keep holding on to it, it's going to impact you probably most of the time not in a positive manner. So what I do is I continue to nurture them in a way that, hey, we'll have a team meeting, or we'll have one-on-ones and talk about it. Or, it's just like, I revert back to my military career. When I pull you in my office, I'm counseling you on, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what you can expect. You better get it here, because the real world is not going to be this nice. And I try to teach them now, so that when they get out in that, in the real world, that they can already be ready, already know what to expect. So we do that on a daily basis.
It sounds like, Leonard, you truly are preparing these young men for life. It's what, in the present, of course, they're in college, but how do you prepare them for beyond the college experience at Miles? And it sounds like you're doing that. Can you share with us what a typical day is like for a head golf coach?
Okay, typical
Or
day.
is there a typical day?
There is no typical day because my wife would tell you probably, what are you doing upstairs? And I know when I initially started this program, it would be 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing? You up? Yeah, I'm trying to build a program. Uh, so my typical day, I'll be up early. I'll go to the school. I'm always recruiting, so that's a daily thing. We have team workouts, twice a day. We've incorporated a cardio on a Friday. Um, we're at the golf course 2 to 3 times as a team throughout the week. They have individual responsibilities on a daily basis, whether it's putting, whether it's chipping, meaning chipping around the green. Some people may know about it, others may not. But our day consists of for me, what tournaments we're going to be involved in, taking care of the accounting part. Do we have enough money? Since this pandemic, everything's gone sky high. So now, how do I manage that budget? Because they haven't given me any more money. That becomes a concern. The team, they work hard. This particular team that I have really, really works hard. And I don't necessarily always have to say, hey, be out on the golf course, go practice, which helps me out a great deal.
They take a lot of initiative.
They take a lot of initiative, and I have a great team captain, and I put a lot of responsibility on him as the team captain, who I trust a great deal as a young man that really had never played golf, and I took a chance on him. He had never played golf, but he's my #1 player today. So, yeah.
And Mr. Smoot, Coach Smoot, well, first, as a granddaughter of a Marine, I just want to say thank you for your devoted service to us. I appreciate it. And it's so inspiring just listening to you. And when I listen to you, I hear a lot of these different words that resonate with discipline and accountability and expectations. Can you share a little bit about how you associate those with this loving style that you have? Because I love how you say when you call people and it's a counseling and it's all this preparation. I feel like you operate out of love in what you do. That passion is so evident. So can you just share a little bit about how accountability and expectations and that responsibility that you give, how that comes from a loving place?
Well, first of all, I had loving parents. That's the first thing. They had high expectations for each one of us. I have 2 other siblings, and we all do kind of, I guess you say, we do service work. But we had loving parents. We had a community growing up with our cousins and aunts, and having to answer our aunts and uncles and as well. I think that would probably be the first thing I would say. Secondly, the Marine Corps taught me discipline, taught me accountability. Even as a young Marine, we were responsible for others at 18 years old. I mean, so those would be one of the first 2 things I would say. I think the third thing for me, every parent that when I recruit their kids, I tell the moms first, I'm gonna take care of your son because I don't have a women's team, but I tell the mom first that I'm gonna take care of your son like he's my own. And there's gonna be expectations. I mean, I'll tell a mother to stop washing his clothes before he gets to college. That's probably one of the first things I tell a mother: stop washing his clothes. But I tell the parents that I'm gonna take care of their kids like they're my own. I'm gonna hold them accountable when they need to be held accountable. I'm expecting you to go to the classroom because you spending your parents' money. You're not spending your money. Outside that, I'm giving them money, and so the money that I give them, I said, look at me as your employer because you are being employed. And I think because of my military career, it's kind of carried over the responsibilities. I could have gone to college. which is crazy. I could have gone to college to Kentucky State, which is ironic that I'm at Miles College, but Kentucky State is our sister school within our conference. So everything I revert back to, I think, coming full circle, there was a purpose for me being at Miles College, and the purpose is not just winning. The purpose was, how do I take the things that was given to me and pour into someone else? And I think for me, traveling the world 24 years of my life, and you end up back at a destination, living vicariously through others, where you were supposed to go to an HBCU and go to college, but you opted to take a different direction and you end up back at an HBCU. I couldn't have orchestrated that by myself. There's no way. So that's why, I pour into them. I even pour into other teams, players. It's players that I've sent to other colleges. Parents still call me today, and they just see the genuineness that, like I tell them, you know, this is their first recruiting. This is their first business decision. So when you're making a decision to go to college, it's not just going to college. It's your first business decision, and you got to be ready to be successful and not bounce from college to college to college. So that's I think that's where the genuineness comes in at for me, and I think people see that when I talk to them about their young people.
That's beautiful. And so what kind of advice would you have for folks on learning how to live with that purpose, on how to be so intentional in preparing for the goals that they may have, whether it's golf or otherwise?
Um, Set some goals for yourself. I mean, set goals for yourself. I mean, right? I have the team write goals. You got to see it before you can believe it. So if you write them down, have your plan and your purpose. I think a lot of people know who they are and what their purpose. I think young people know what they want, um, and others may not know exactly what they want, but you can kind of, if they see, I guess if they see the love that you have for them and wanting them to succeed, they'll work towards that. You might have to push them a little bit more, but when they see the genuineness in you, right, then you just help guide those goals and guide them in the direction. And I know, they look at me. I know an older guy, but I try to understand their world and how do I adapt into their world, and then by adapting into their world, I can bring them into my world, and that way we find an equal balance, and then we start mixing the ingredients to move them forward in their world, because my world was just, I'm kind of like archive, right? I got a bunch of
Wisdom.
information.
It's wisdom.
Wisdom, yeah.
Yes.
That's what we're gonna call it. Wisdom. So I have something to fall back on, that I'm like, okay, here's what happened during my time. I know you living in this generation, but many things don't change. How are you going to take that and make it work in today's world? So
That's amazing. And this year being Kennrod's 5th year and having our fundraising event this December, the theme being resilience, there's no question that you are resilient after doing all the amazing things that you've done and still having that heart in what you do and helping coach others to have that same resilience. I think these times right now are particularly challenging for youth because there's so much that's unknown. What would you say, given your military background and just all the other themes in your life, how would you advise folks to overcome any fear that they have so that they can accomplish their goals?
well, I think, from a fear perspective, um, that's a good question. Um, I think if when we say fear, you know, some things when it comes to fear, we could talk about mental health. We could talk about a lot of things. You know, some people I find just being around young people, things that they don't talk about certain things. You know, and I just from my fear, I kind of stick to my military. I mean, I was 18. I mean, if we've been to war, we've done. You got to face it. You know, you have to face it, and you have to talk to somebody. If you have certain things, don't be afraid to talk to somebody about it. Don't be embarrassed to talk to somebody about it. And I think far too often we hold on to stuff and it kind of just stays swept under the carpet in a sense because we are ashamed to talk to somebody else. That's why I'm an open book. I've always been an open book. I'm not afraid to talk about me. If I got a problem, I got a problem. It's whatever that might be. And I think you gotta be able to do that with someone you trust, not just any and everyone, but someone that you trust, and find a way to to face that fear head on.
What would you say? I just read an article this morning about Brooks Koepka, and he was talking about the Ryder Cup coming up, and it's, it's a golf's an individual sport. You go out there and you're performing, but you also now are in a team atmosphere. What do you do for your students, your team, to kind of instill more than just an individual's efforts, that it's a team effort? What have you been able to do to maybe facilitate that?
Well, that we talk about that quite frequently. I mean, we've gotten as a team, our scoring has definitely improved. I mean, we're competing with some of the top schools in the country in Division II, and I can remember when we would just show up and people, oh, that's Miles College. They ain't gonna do nothing today. And now Miles College is showing up, and we show up on the leaderboard. It's like, okay, here's this HBCUs coming through. Who are them? Who are they? And all of that. I think what I've done as a coach, just like Brooks has said, it's an individual sport. I tell the guys on the team, yeah, it's an individual sport. That's how people perceive it. But you get into a team environment, you can't think about yourself when you hit a certain shot, because what happens is it affects something else. It affects somebody else. It affects the entire team. So you have to pause for a moment and think about, okay, if I hit this certain shot and I don't pull it off, guess what? It affects the team. It doesn't just affect you and you can go on it. You've got to think about the team. And I also talk about it from a professional standpoint. You're going to go work in an environment. You actually in college. So I look at college as a job. That's kind of how I look at it, per se. You're just not being paid. So you got to show up, right? You got to go to work. I mean, you got to go to the classroom. If you don't show up, guess what? You get an FA. You go get that failure to attend, right? So that team effort would mean you have to be on the golf course, in the classroom. Your instructors are part of the team. But if you don't show up, guess what? You're not being effective for the team. That means you can't play, right? That means you affecting. We've held the All Academic Award for about 3 years now. Our team averages academic GPA has been around 3.5 to 3.6. So you affect the team, right? Because you don't show up in the classroom. You don't communicate with your instructor. They want you to communicate. You don't communicate with the coach. So everything, even though you look at yourself as an individual, it all affects the team. It affects the team.
Awesome. What about as a father of daughters? What did that teach you? That you can relate to golf.
Well, my daughters are all independent.
Yeah.
So I've always wanted my daughters to be independent. Both of them are very independent young ladies. They're self-sufficient. They do their own thing. And we've grown as a daughter and father. So we've continue to build on our relationships. As they're, they kind of tend to kind of blow away to the wind when they start getting up in age. But yeah, I think um, for me and my daughters are just solid human beings. They've always had that go get it kind of attitude. So
Were you able to get your daughters into golf? Because I wasn't.
my oldest daughter, when she was 8, she tried it, and that was it. That was right.
Uh-huh.
My youngest daughter at 20 something, I've taken her to Top Golf. But my youngest daughter seems to be she can do just about anything and everything, from fishing to shooting a pistol. That we took her to the gun range. My wife and I took her to the gun range. I'm like, oh, you might have well been in the CIA, because the way she shot that pistol that very first time at the gun range, I'm like, you sure you never fired a weapon? Yeah. So, and then fishing, my wife enjoyed it, and my youngest daughter enjoyed it. They both had a great time. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. You're right about it golf being a great quality time sport. I spent many an afternoon on the driving range or out on the course with my dad. I don't play much anymore, but
Right.
He was excited to know I was chatting with you today. And so when it comes down to that quality time that you have with your team, what's a favorite memory that you have, whether it's current or in the past, with whether it's the Marine golf team or your college team at Miles? Is there a favorite moment that you really felt that camaraderie that really stuck in your heart?
I got two. Actually have two.
Yeah.
The very first team that I started at Miles College was with 4 guys and a football player that quit the football. He was a outside linebacker. And I used to tell them all, I said, just stay focused on, I promise you, if we stay focused and we work hard, we'll win a conference championship. We kept working hard. Within our first 3.5 years, we won our very first conference championship. And they graduated and they were able to leave Miles College with a ring on their finger. Okay? And our motto was PMA, which was positive mental attitude. So we kept a positive mental attitude. We said, just stay focused, just stay on task, and I promise you that we would the outcome, you will be excited when we win. And when that happened, I was excited, not for myself, I was excited for them, because we followed our mission. The second would be this second goal that I had set out to win the PGA Works Collegiate Championship, was something that I was watching while in the military, that I saw on the Golf Channel year after year, saying maybe one day that I would go, not thinking that we would win. And I told those guys that, hey, if we go win this thing, we didn't have a conference championship, so they got disappointed. I said, well, we got to focus on something, on winning this. We went there, and I said, if we win it, it's gonna be totally different. Your world's gonna change, because this is gonna be the first national championship that Miles College would have ever had in the history of the school. I said, you're gonna be treated a certain way, and we were coming back from Florida. First I broke down and shedded a tear. I didn't shedded a tear after the win. And then we were on our way back from Florida. We kept getting these calls from our athletic director. Hey, Coach Smoot, how close are you? Where are you? Where are you? And I got to give my hat off to my wife for pulling everything together, because I believe she's the one that's totally responsible for what took place at the college. So I give my hats off to her. But what transpired was we're in this van and we're driving, and this black vehicle pulls up, woo, pulls around and sticks his hand out the window and tells us to follow. So we get a police escort all the way back into the school. At the school, the guys in the van, coach, is that for us? I said, I told y'all guys that it was going to be different if y'all won this thing. Y'all never believe what I say, and so we're going through these lights, and just all the cars are stopping, and we being escorted, and we get pulled into the school, come through the school, and we pull into our admissions department. And my wife, my sister, our president, alumni was standing out there, and then CBS 42, the news, was standing out there. And the guys were they were just so excited. So I got really excited about that. And then when one of my players told the news reporter, he said, this coach has been like a father to me. That made my day. That means I did my job. So those are two great moments as a coach.
I might be shedding a tear myself. No one look at me. No. So beautiful.
Savannah, oh my goodness.
Wow.
Leonard, I didn't even know about the way you all were received back on the campus, just hearing you share that. And just knowing from the very beginning when you started the program at Miles, and how that was such a struggle, financially getting everything off the ground. And to hear you speak about the work that has been done so far, I just can't help but think about what's the next goal. You're meeting them, and it's you and your team. It's so incredible. The journey has been so very incredible. I know it's been difficult at times, but when you think about all of the accomplishments, when you think about the impact that you've made on the lives of the students and so many others, it's so well worth it. Mm-hmm. It is so well worth it. And so I have to ask you, as we prepare to wrap up, what's the next goal?
I've told the team actually told the team that I've met all the goals that I wanted to achieve. That now we got to meet new goals. We got to sit down and, of course, we want to kind of win this conference championship and then go back to the regionals and maybe make history getting into the NCAA national championship. I think that's a goal, and then try to go back and win the PGA Works back-to-back. That's a goal. And then outside of that, I want to continue to graduate students and see them be successful in life as long as I'm coaching, and I'm going to do that whether I'm coaching or outside the college life. I'm going to continue to do that to pour into young people.
That is awesome. I just put up on the screen, we just want to remind our viewers, this will be streamed to the Kennrod Facebook page. Share this with people that you think could benefit from Leonard's wisdom and his insights into what he's doing at Miles College. So we'd love for you to help us spread the word and get that out to people that could benefit from hearing this. And then we have our next show. Why don't you, Kelly, do you want to share a little bit about our next show that's coming up on October 15th?
Sure. Thank you, Pete. We are also excited to have Carlin Hartman. Carlin is the assistant basketball coach at UNLV. He's going to share his career journey. He's been coaching for a long time, many years, and he's had experiences throughout the country, similar to Leonard, being able to pour into young men around the game of basketball. So for those of you who are interested in basketball as a sport, or just want to hear about career field in terms of basketball, please tune in. We're going to be live again on Wednesday, October the 20th. And as we prepare to wrap up, Leonard, I just I'm so proud. And I know Melissa, Missy, my sister, is very, very proud, along with your entire family, of the work that you've been able to accomplish. And, you know, one of these days, I'd love to get out there with you on the golf course.
Well, you have some time now, don't you?
Hey, you know what? I would definitely love to make that happen. I know you've been to some beautiful places, and just to be able to see you in action with your students, you know, I would love that. I would really, really love that. So I just want to say hats off to you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. For those of you who are in Birmingham, support Smoot Golf. I'm telling you, you're in store for a real treat from an awesome leader and someone who is so incredible in what he does. So if you're interested, that's both boys and girls, right, Leonard?
Absolutely.
Boys and girls, if you're interested in playing golf and would love to have a wonderful instructor and someone of just such high character, please look up Smoot Golf. And I do want to thank Savannah and Pete, as always. You all are so both incredible. Thank you for your time this morning. And we look forward to seeing everyone again back here next month, October the 20th, where we'll have special guest, Carlin Hartman. Have a great day, everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.